Welcome to another video. So today we will be discussing about flowering in plants by the ABC model, which is mainly pertaining to Arabidopsis. Let's get started. So for flowering, there are two main sets of genes that are involved. First are the floral meristem identity genes, that is leafy, apetala 1 and cauliflower. These are basically expressed in the early stages and have two main functions. First is inhibiting the growth of the stem cells and second is promotion of the flower development. Second are the organ identity genes, that is apetala 1, apetala 2, apetala 3, pistillata and agamis. These are transcription factors that give each whorl of a flower their identity. Now, flowering is quite a complex process that mainly involves the conversion of a vegetative meristem to a flowering meristem. Now, this can occur in response to main two cues. First is the environmental cue and second is autonomous, that is independent of any environmental stimulus. Now, let us first look on to the environmental stimulus. So, the leaves are the ones that will detect the light or the season or maybe the exact time at which the flower is supposed to be seen. So now how is this leaf signal, the signal that is perceived by the leaf, exactly known to the shoot apical meristem where the flower is formed? Now how is this signaling done? So this signaling is possible because of a mechanism, you can say, called as florigen. So initially it was thought that it is a chemical substance, but we are still unable to identify it. And hence it's now just a concept that the signal is transferred from the leaf to the shoot apical meristem. Now there is first pathway called as the photoperiodic pathway, which is dependent on the environmental cue as we just discussed via the florigen. Now, the photoperiodic pathway banks on a very important gene called as the constantis and its product, the constantis protein. This particular protein is formed in the companion cells of the phloem. Now, when it's time for flowering, the leaves would detect the signal and the flowering meristem would receive it. Now, the constantis gene becomes active and it starts accumulating in the phloem, which is then transported, and this is known to activate the FT gene. Now, the FT gene will produce the FT protein. Now, this protein in the flowering cells will translocate to the nucleus, where it binds to another protein called as the FD protein. The FT-FD protein complex activates two main molecules, that is SOC1 and API, that is the apetala 1 and the suppressor of constantis gene 1. These together known to activate leafy, and as we just seen before, leafy is a main flowering gene that is involved. So it activates this leafy and then leafy causes the induction of flowering. This is the first pathway in response to the environmental cue. The second we are going to discuss is the autonomous pathway that doesn't depend basically on any environmental signal. Now, the autonomous pathway represses the FLC. Now, what is FLC? FLC is the flowering locus C. Now, if we see from the name, we will feel that, okay, FLC flowering locus C, that means it should promote flowering. But actually, it's quite the opposite. This FLC gene is known to repress. Okay, it represses flowering. So therefore, when the autonomous pathway is active, it will repress the FLC itself, which would let us activate the genes required for flowering. So the autonomous pathway will repress the FLC, which will lead to flowering. Next is vernalization. Vernalization is with response to the environment. So vernalization also by an epigenetic mechanism represses FLC that promotes flowering. And another autonomous path is the synthesis of gibberellic acid. Synthesis of gibberellic acid will induce leafy, which will in turn promote flowering. So here we have discussed four main pathways. First of all, the photoperiodic pathway. Second, we have done vernalization. Photoperiodic pathway and vernalization respond to environmental cues, and autonomous pathway and the gibberellic acid is a autonomous regulation system. So main things that you need to remember is the constant is FT, FD protein sequence and the florigen, another key player leafy. Now the ABC model. So it's just a revision for you that we all know there are four whorls in a flower. The innermost, if you go, is the carpel, followed by the stamens, then the petals and sepals. So innermost we have the carpel, followed by stamen, the petals and sepals. And this is how the flower of Arabidopsis thaliana looks like. The sepals right here, and these are the petals. We have the stamen and here is the carpel. Now let's see what the ABC model says. Now according to the ABC model, the A is for the class A genes, class B genes and class C genes. Each of these genes have certain gene members. That is, gene A has two main genes, apitala1 and apitala2, which actually regulate the development of the two whorls of the flower, that is the whorl 1 and whorl 2. Now, what is the whorl 1? It is the sepals. And what is the whorl 2? Just after the sepals, we have the petals. So, the sepals and the petals, their growth is controlled by the class A genes, apitala 1 and apitala 2. B genes, apitala 3 and pistillata, which is nothing but your petals and stamens. Okay. And C, A gamete solely responsible for the whorls 3 and 4, that is the stamens and the carpel. So if you notice, you require class A and B genes for both petal formation and class B and C genes for the formation of the stamens. For carpels, it is solely the A gametes, and for your sepals, it is solely the apitala 1 and apitala 2. This is something you need to remember to understand the future concepts. So just pause the video down and write this somewhere. So it will really help you to understand further. Now, all of these are basically Hox genes. Now, Hox is an abbreviation for the homeotic selector genes, which are basically known to give an identity to a particular body part or a segment. It was first found in Drosophila, and humans also have a set of Hox genes. Now, every Hox gene has a domain. Now, the human Hox genes have something called as the homeodomain. Unlike humans, these have a domain called as MADS domain. Okay, so remember, this is a key question that they would twist and ask you in the competitive papers. Okay, so these are Hox genes that have a MADS domain. Now, let us understand this by using this diagram. So we had the three genes, that is A, B, C, correct? And we have four whorls of the flower, whorl 1, 2, 3, 4. Whorl 1 corresponds to sepals, 2 petals, 3 stamens, and 4 carpels. Done? Okay. Now, your class A genes had apitala 1, apitala 2. B had apitala 3, pistillata, and 4 had A gametes. Now, as we discussed, A was required for formation of sepals and petals. So you can see that I've put that in yellow. We required B for the petals as well as stamens, and C for the stamens and carpels. As we seen in the table, solely for the formation of sepals, the class A genes are sufficient. So therefore, I have just outlined it with yellow. But for your petals, you require both A as well as B. So I have given it with two colors. Similarly, for stamens, you require class B and C genes, therefore the stripes. And finally, for the carpels, that is the fourth whorl, only C is required. This is what happens in a wild type. This is how every normal flower is formed and how the genes work. Now, what if one of the gene is mutated? Suppose you don't have your class A genes. It is a mutant for class A. So now in this case, you do not have class A genes. So what happens is, it is a property of these Hox genes that they will spread their boundaries if one of it is absent. Now, when there was A present here, it used to repress C, therefore it used to be in its own domain, and C also represses A, therefore it used to be in its own domain. So you had a distinction. Now, since you don't have A, it's all taken over by C. And therefore, I have marked the whole region by C. Now, here all you have is the class C genes. Now, what happens is, since here for sepals you needed A, we don't have A. What do we have now? Just C. So, what we get when we have only C? Yes, we get carpels. So in this first box, all you will have are the carpels. So no sepals, instead of sepals, you will have the carpels. For our petals, you required class A genes as well as B. Now, since there's no A, what we have is C and we have B. So doesn't it just look like the adjacent box? Yes. So this, instead of forming petals, would now have stamens. So in a class A mutant, instead of having sepals, petals, stamens and carpels, all you have is carpels, stamens, stamens and carpels. This is the order. And these is exactly the thing that you see in Hox genes or the homeotic gene. A mutant in a Hox gene would cause one part of the organ to look like something else. So now your sepals just look like the carpels. So there has been a transformation of one body part looking like some other body part. Okay, that's a class A mutant. Similarly, you can understand for the class B. So now you have A and you have C, but you don't have B. So what will happen is, the one that was looking like a petal would no more be a petal because you don't have B. All you got is A. So therefore, this will also appear as a sepal. Class B. Class B mutant would not be present to make your stamens either. So who takes over? The carpels. And hence, here all you have is a carpel. So you will have sepal, sepal, carpel, carpel. Class C mutant, you won't have C. Now, since there's no C, A takes over this whole thing. Now, you have A, so you will have sepals. You have A and B, so you will have petals. But we don't have C here. What we have is again A and B. So even this would exactly look like your petals. And the fourth wall, instead of having just B, it would, if it would had B, it would look like a carpel. But since there's no B, what it looks like is a sepal. So you have sepals, petals, petals, again sepals. So this is what you get. Now, actually what was observed is, we realized, okay, we require A, B, C for flower development. So what people did was, ectopically they took a non-flowering plant and added A, B, C. Okay, so what should have happened? You should have got a flower, but that wasn't the case. Then they found out that you require another gene called E that needs to be expressed with all of this in order to form the flower. And another D is also responsible for forming the ovules. So additional two sets of genes were involved, that is E and D. And hence the model was now called to be the ABCDE model, because we have the two additional genes D and E that are required for this process. So that's all about the ABC model. Hold on. We have some questions for you that were asked in the CSIR net, quite many questions. So if you want to understand how these questions are solved and what is the solution to these questions that were asked, all you got to do is click the link in the description or the end screen and you'll see how to solve these questions. Till then, subscribe to my channel, like the video and share it for more updates. Bye.